So hello and welcome to my video. Right, a landscape. It's been a bit of a break, but I'm back, and I'm going to start the landscape slightly differently. Normally I do the sky and then I have a bit of sky at the bottom where I can blend it into the landscape, but today I'm going to do a bit of landscape and then the sky, because it doesn't really matter. It's just personal preference. Red ochre. Okay, I haven't got the palette camera up today, but I'm just going to show you quickly, just to get an idea. It's nothing fancy. It's just, I always start on a paper palette. So there's the paper palette, and red ochre. As you can see, it's not dripping. Doesn't matter what I do, up and down, it won't drip. A little bit of sap green, a little bit of Payne's grey, just to give it that extra bit of darkness that I quite like. And because you'll always remember, start with the darks. You've got to have the darks so that you can work the lights into it. So that's that. And off we go. So how do you invent a landscape, first of all? As I usually say, don't think of the landscape, just put shapes down. Because it's everything's made of shapes. In other words, flick the switch in your head so that you start thinking of shapes rather than objects. And what should we do? Let's have a think. I quite like the distant blue effect that I get in landscapes, so I'm going to do that. But to start with, let's just have a few marks. And I'm not going to make the mistake I usually make, where I go downhill. You know, standing over here, it's really tricky. You think you're going straight, but you're not. So all I need to do, I don't even need to get in the way. All I've got to do is turn around, look at my camera, and see where I'm going. So that's just a guideline, that's not the actual horizon line, not yet. So a little bit more paint. Now the reason why I use red ochre and sap green, I can show you, I don't usually explain this, but I'll show you what I mean. So it's like a sludgy colour, but if I put some colour on quite slowly, got a cat hair sticking out the brush. If I put the colour on quite slowly, you see that's very dark because I'm moving slowly. So it's a solid lump of colour, just that little spot there. So, and obviously if I move quickly, it takes paint away, and you get a lighter tone of whatever it is that you've put on there. But the other good thing about it is, particularly if you don't mix the colours too much, so there are blobs of green on that and blobs of red ochre, you can put down a shape like this, just turn the brush a few times, and you'll get a nice muddy, landscapey colour. It's already done for you. You can tidy up later, but you can see there's a variation in the colours here. There's a tad more green there, and it gradually goes into red, but that's not final, you see. This is just the beginning. But it means that sludgy colour becomes extremely flexible. You can get all kinds of effects from it, and you can enhance that just by wiping it, as you know. So that'll change into that colour, almost like a sandy colour, without adding yellow. It's got a slightly yellow ochre-y look to it, so I'm not going to leave that. This is just me playing at the moment, because I'm still at the point where I don't really know what I'm going to do on this. Now, me saying that should give everyone hope. In other words, if you're starting a painting and you're new to it, there's always this thing, you know, where newbies sit and stare at the perfect canvas or the perfect board that they've prepared, and they're afraid of making a mistake. Don't worry about it. Make mistakes. Just make as many as you can. It's just what should we do? What should we do over there? I always like the hill effect here coming down. It's just something that appeals to me at the moment, but I think I'll try and avoid that today. Maybe the odd bump on the horizon, but these are not final bumps. This is just something to sort of get the juices flowing. Let's just get some colour on there. Doesn't matter what you do. You see it? I'm not mixing these subtle browny colours, they just happen to come because of the way the paint is sitting on the brush, and it's quite weird how landscapes just appear. Don't think about it even, just sort of put the paint on and use the brush as if you're scrubbing. You don't have to do this, you know. The more textures you get in, the more interesting it gets. And obviously it's much easier to do this sort of thing on a bigger scale. You wouldn't want to do this on a little tiny picture. You could, but you'd need to scale the brush down as well. And it's, I don't know, I just always found it more exciting to paint big, because you can sort of, you've got, I don't know how to put it really, you've just got freedom to move and express stuff. So, as I said, a really quick impression of a landscape, but now I want to try and make it slightly interesting. So I put this colour on just to show you that if I use the brush slowly, it's dark. Same for all these bits along the horizon there. And you don't really necessarily want that. So what I'm going to do is just basically do that along the horizon. Just a little bit of scumbling with a bit of paper. And that's just to actually remove a bit of paint. Okay. And now I'm going to put in the distant bluey bits, which I've really, for want of a better word, I've really got the hots for this effect. It's just, it's such an instant distancy effect, and I'm really exaggerating. So I'm mixing ultramarine blue with royal blue and sort of medium strength sort of colour, so you can see the brush. It's a long way away, isn't it? That will focus eventually, as you can see. So that's the sort of strength of colour. So the blue distance stuff, I had it on the last video. I made, in fact, the last video I think I made after my last Zoom class, which was a bit of a disaster because I'd forgotten to press the record button. These things do happen occasionally. So I'm thinking, let's have we'll have a little bit of maybe a little bit of a hill. Let's have a flat bit there. We'll take that up. So this is not sky. This is actually land. Just chuck it in, sort of connect it to the stuff that I scumbled away. So this is just thrown on this board, which I should say is 80 centimetres that way, 60 that way. I'll put the measurement in inches on the screen now. And I do get asked why I always use this size board, and it's just sort of comfortable for me anyway. I know that I can usually get a painting on this sort of size in approximately an hour, so that's why I choose it. So there we are. There's just a lump of blue. Again, I'm still at the stage where it doesn't matter what I do. Everything's retrievable if it goes wrong. And if you watch my videos, you know that I tend to go on about there is no wrong. There's just opportunities to change. If you feel that it's gone wrong, it's not really wrong. It just means that you're learning, and there's always a way out. So let's have. So I'm not going to have a sharp hill, but it's going to be a raised bit of ground over there. This will imply that we are high up on a sort of plateau. Then there's a valley. I'm fascinated by that idea for some reason, not sure why. Could be high blood sugar, could be too much coffee. It's one of those anyway. So there's just a distant bit of hill. So when I've finished making that hill look the way I want it to, I'll start to work on the foreground stuff. At the moment, they're a little bit tonally together. So when I've tweaked it a bit and brought this forward, you'll get a feeling of depth. So above that will be the sky. So we'll start putting in the sky, which means adding some white. So all I'm literally doing here is just chucking a whole load of titanium white on the colour that I last used. So we'll just plop that over there. And that I want to sort of butt up to this bit here, just with a slight waver. Don't do a dead straight line. Have some little bumps in it. And just sort of let the brush wander, really. Let's have a little bit of a dip there, just a slight hint of a dip. It may not look much of a dip from where you're from the camera angle, but yeah, it's dippy enough. And don't try to blend anything yet. Just scrub the paint on. And you may think, well, there's all these brush marks all over it. Let's exaggerate some brush marks. There's some brush marks there. Okay, bit of paper on that, we'll get rid of that. Also, when I do the blurry brush thing, that will also get rid of it. So, the only time I'm being careful, really, in the whole painting is this bit now, because I want a sort of hard edge in some places, and not a hard edge in others on the actual line. So you've got a crispy bit there, and you've got a fuzzy bit there, fuzzy bit here, and then it sort of jumps about a bit over on the left there, but it's just to add interest to the line. It may look it may look like I'm doing a bit of fancy painting there, but I'm not. I'm trying to get rid of a bristle. Get off. Two of them. There we go. Okay, so let's add a bit of variation to that tone. So, lump of paper. So what I was saying about brush marks up here, so you just do that, they go away. By doing this, when I put things on over the top, you'll get a variation in the blue still, because there's some bits here which you may not see from there, but there are some bits there where there's a slight build-up of paint, which I might leave, and then there's extremely thin paint here. And the thickness of paint in a painting, it doesn't matter. Painting can have thick paint or thin paint. You can have parts of the painting where there is no paint, and it's still a painting. It's a board with paint on it, and it makes an image, so it's still a painting, even if there are blank spots. Okay. So let's start thinking how I can invent some interesting cloud shapes. Or maybe I think it might be too soon. Let's just go on a bit more. And as usual, I'm just using linseed oil. This one doesn't have a drying agent in it. It's just, although if you can almost get the same effect of having a drying agent if you put some linseed oil in a container, which I do. It's just in a basically I just use one of these. I think it's a Kilner jar, one of those things. If you leave it in there for a few days, it starts to become a little bit more tacky. So it's already on the way to drying when you start painting. So what I'm doing here now, I'm just putting in some lumps of paint, varying degrees of thickness. Again, no real thought going into that. And then I think, right, so I'm going to put some Ultramarine with a bit of Payne's grey up on the right hand side. Okay, so a bluey grey colour. Let's just put something up there just to sort of, I don't know, just sort of start things rolling. So let's just have a lump there. Okay, it won't necessarily be that shape. You've always got to get it out of your mind that you're painting a sky until you get down to the nitty-gritty, which I'm not at yet. It's just, this is all experimental. Let's have a lump there. So a pre-lump of paint, and then I think we'll have something there. Again, I'm not actually painting, you know, bobbly clouds. Okay, so let's get some feeling in the sky. Let's have one of those and a couple of these, and maybe something like that. You have to have absolutely no fear, because it will all come together. So another couple of them there. Now the fan brushes, which I've left over on my desk, they come into action a bit later on. Once I've got most of the sky finished, I'll show you how to use those last. And it's not difficult. It's just a little trick I can show you. Okay, so that looks it's going the right way. And then I think have a little bit of slightly paler sky at the top. So it's low flying, slightly stormy skies. So let's just have a little bit of that there. A bit more paint to go on the easel. And you may be the same as me. When you get a new easel, you tend to sort of get a paint on it and wipe it off. You know, that wears off after a while. You don't need to worry about it. It's not really a piece of furniture, so to speak. It's just a thing to hold the painting steady while you slap paint. There we go. Right, so we've got some shapes coming now like that. That's good. Do I want anything interesting added to the lower? Yes, I do. Right, I'm going to stick some brown in the sky. It's just a little bit on the corner of the brush, just on this end here. So I'm just going to get a little bit in there, just sort of very roughly. Just throw it in. Okay. A little touch of it up there. Why not? Okay, so the first thing to do next, or the next thing to do first, is to calm that down a bit. So I've got a brush here that's almost good enough to use. Okay, so I'm just going to sort of blur that. Not worried about the little light spots that I've left. They'll be helpful later. So, as usual, basic. I know the colour is on the tip, but I'm not doing that. I'm doing that. I always say this. But... And the reason I keep saying it is because if I don't say it, someone will say, "Oh, I tried doing that, but I couldn't make it work." So. And it's very good exercise when you reach a certain age to keep your wrists nice and flexible. There we go. So the sky starts to sort of come together. This is like the underpainting for the sky, really, more than anything. It's in no way meant to be final. Now this painting I'll put on YouTube probably tomorrow, today being Saturday the 12th, or I may spend most of tomorrow editing it. It does take a long time to edit, but I might upload it as a premiere, which means that I will be there in the background chatting to people in case they're interested. So yeah, if you want to watch this, or if you are watching it now, feel free to ask me questions. Mostly, I find it quite interesting when I do a premiere. Most people just want to say hello, so that I'm usually sitting there copy and pasting people's names just to say hi. Sometimes people ask questions about technique, but so which leads me to I wonder whether to actually do a live Facebook or a YouTube live. I think I did one years ago. Got quite a few views. But it's quite, strangely enough, it's quite nerve-wracking because you think, well, crikey, you know, it's if I make a boo-boo on this, it's going to be deeply embarrassing. But anyway, maybe I should just go for it. Okay, so we're starting to build up the beginnings of a sky. So who would have thought brown would work in a sky? I'm going to tone it down a bit. I'm going to, in fact, not with the blurring brush though. I'm going to use a smaller brush just to spread it a bit. So now, even though it looks like I've spent some time flattening that out, okay, it's still at the stage where you can just say, well, okay, well, I've got too much paint there. Too many bristles there too. Got too much paint there. Let's just see what we can do with it. My goodness, this one of those brushes. Okay, so just dig into the paint a bit, just push it about. No repeat shapes, absolutely no repeat shapes. So you can see that's starting to take some of the red out of it, but it's still there. And I can just sort of shove it about a bit there. And then go over it with the blurring brush again. So all those, and I'm sure you can see it, I'm not going to zoom in, but I'm sure you can see there are a lot of scrubby marks on that, but just a few swipes with the brush will change that. My goodness, all my brushes are losing hair today. But I have to say, it doesn't matter. And the reason I say that is because if things happen like that, and it means that you're going to start fiddling around and pushing, as long as you don't get a build-up of paint, everything's really thin, everything is totally reversible. Just sort of, if you do something like this, like if I dig the corner of the brush in, it makes a shape, and then if you calm it down again, it's still quite a sort of interesting little tonal change in the sky. And it all sort of adds to the, that word again, patina. Now I'm thinking I'm gonna blur the horizon a bit more. I think I'm in the mood for a bit of fog. Let's have some fog. So let's just calm that down. I still want it to look like a hill, and I'll make it look like a hill because I'll be adding textures to it. So all I'm going to do now is with the tip of this brush is just literally do that. Not necessarily over the whole thing. Let's just have a few bits. Let's just calm it down a bit there. There we are. So some bits are slightly foggy now. Do I want them foggier or more fogified? Let's try it. It's interesting this because I do use the camera a lot so that I can go and look in the viewfinder, which I've got turned towards me. So I'm seeing a mini version of it. Now in the mini version, I can see it looks like quite a strong continuous line, but I know it isn't. And it'll probably show on the final video that that's actually almost disappearing into the sky, which I do like. So let's just get a bit of texture in that before I get up to the sky. It's all done just with paper. You could use brush for this, but you don't have to. Paper seems to be easier, and also you don't need to clean it. So again, the distant marks on the horizon to give you the feeling that there are fields on the other side of the valley. There we are, simple as that. How's that look? A bit more. Okay, so now the lines I'm putting in, at the moment, they're all basically horizontal. Now, they don't need to be. I'm just doing the horizontal ones first. So if I go across to there, they don't have to be long either. They can be quite short. And let's put one or two in that come across the landscape that way. Again, hopefully you can see this. Let's have one going down that way. And then a light spot just there, just for the heck of it. So it's this illusion of detail thing. Basically, I'm painting nothing. I'm just sort of tricking the viewer. In fact, I think way over there, I think maybe there could be a little road that comes down the mountain there. How does that look? That's possible. It may not stay there. I'll just sort of, anything I'm not sure about, I just sort of put it on, leave it for a bit, and then reassess it. In fact, I've just reassessed it, and the top isn't right, so I'm just going to put some marks there. I quite like that little tiny wiggle there. Let's put in some distant building. There we go. Let's have a hint of something that could be a building. And let's have a shape that looks like that. No idea what it is, but it's something. I'll zoom in on that at the end of the lesson so you can see what I've done. Let's have a lump over there. Let's have something on the horizon. No idea what it is. But I'm not going too far into the sky because this will change in a moment. Once I've done the sky, I'll whip down the bottom there and just finish off the salady bit. So, but let's have a lump or two there. I suppose something that might be useful is that when you're actually doing what I'm doing now, these shapes in here, I am going to zoom in because it's always better quality if I zoom in on the camera rather than digitally. So if I just get into there like that, so you can see the shapes start to suggest things. So if I just go to that part there, I think that's in focus. Yep. So this bit here, I want something in there just to catch your eye a little bit, just so that you don't sail out of the picture. So I think we should probably have a slightly wider, no, not wider, that's not the word I'm after. I think it's just a bright area across there. So rather than struggle to make a thin light line, make it thicker, because you can always hone it down. So what I'm after is just a little bit of light so that I can add some blue. Let's just see which one we're going to use. This one. Right. So it's basically the same colour as everything else. So all I want to do is just sort of, first of all, where I started wiping it, it's like an ugly sort of smudge. So we just sort of change that, and then break that shape with a few sort of ghost trees, I suppose. They're ghost trees? Anyway, they're ghosty somethings. Just a few lumps to break it up, and it gives a sort of illusion of making it look slightly more complex. In fact, I'm going to just sort of just put those in like that, and I think that might do. Now the reason I said make the line thick, it's easier to make it thick and make it thinner than it is to start with it thin. If you're making a long thin line like that, if you waver slightly, it'll look naff. That's the word I'm looking for. So make it fatter, and then just use a bigger brush. to slim it down a touch. All right, I'll leave that blue stuff alone for now. In fact, I'm going to do the landscape next. That should be in focus. I think it is. Good. Right, so let's get some guts on there. Let's have, I think, big and bold. Let's have. So I could bring the landscape closer to us, or I can leave it where it is, but I think, and you'll know what I mean in a moment. Okay, I think sometimes what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some dark in there for later. Let's just have a little dark patch there. I'll figure out what to do with that in a moment. So now we've got light in the foreground. This is why this stuff takes so much editing. You see, walking back and forth, checking. Okay, I quite like that. I'm going to turn that into a lump of wood. Okay, so that's going to be a whole load of trees in there. Still a good distance from us. Now all these brush marks that you can see in there, if you can see them from there, where the bristle is breaking through the paint, I don't mind those. I quite like that. But on the final painting, you see, they will be covered. So I want to with another colour probably. But at the moment, I just want to sort of get the feeling that I'm after, and I think I'm going to bring that wood up there. Okay, so that wood goes all the way to the ridge line of the hill, and the texture in there will all start to mean something in a moment. Okay, so we've got a little hill thing there. Let's see, what should we do on that? Let's just have some. Let's do some daring stuff and see what we get. Okay, like that. That's okay for now, anyway. Okay, slightly darker, so I'm just going to add a bit more Payne's grey to that. And as I go on now, I'm using slightly less oil. If I continue to add oil to it, it'll get so liquidy that I won't be able to actually draw anything. And this is the closest we come to drawing now. Drawing with paint. Let's have a bit of a interesting pass across there. And a few bumps here. So it's, you know, this landscape doesn't exist. It's just somewhere in my head. So a little dark bit there. And I think, what should we do there? Yeah, why not? Yeah, ironically, is it ironic? I don't know. A lot of when I do this type of landscape, they have a certain look about them, which is like Devon in southwest of England, a place called Dartmoor, and they have a Dartmoor-y feel. It's an interesting place. It's full of standing stones and ancient monoliths. I'll tell you a little story about Dartmoor. Well, let me think, how old was I? All right, so it's over 40 years ago. I have a delightful cousin and a husband who live in a town called Tavistock. So one day, I'm just rambling away here. You can always turn the volume off if you don't want to hear it. I went to stay with my cousin in Tavistock, their house was actually the last house on one side of the town. So you go out the door and you're on Dartmoor. So it's right on the edge, the very last house. And I used to be into metal detecting. So not looking for anything in particular, just sort of, who knows what you might find. So anyway, I walk across Dartmoor. Every time I went there, I used to go for a nice long walk, just straight across the moor. Enormous by English standards. And I was standing next to this thing called a tor, T-O-R, place called, which tor was it? I think it might have been, because it looks a bit like a chicken, I think they call it cock's tor. Anyway, right next to this vast outcrop of rock, there was a boulder on the ground, and I leant against the tor and pushed at the boulder with my feet. Enormous, it took a lot of pushing to shift this thing. And I rolled this boulder out of the way, and I put the metal detector on the ground where the boulder had been standing, and I got a signal. So I thought, well, that's interesting. So I had a quick dig, and of all things, I found a Victorian jelly mould under this boulder, completely flattened, made of copper. And I've been asking myself ever since, who put it there? Why did they take a jelly mould must have been a picnic, and they took the jelly mould, I suppose, so they could shake the thing out and eat it, with their picnic. But how bizarre is that? Okay, so the landscape's starting to build up. Just shapes. But don't do anything predictable. Right. So this thing that people do, I'm going to show you what people do. They'll do a clump of trees there. I'll do one there. I'll do one there. And one there. Like little islands. Each one a separate little island. It doesn't work. It just... how can I explain it? How do you explain it doesn't work? It doesn't work. That's the only way I can explain it. Things need to connect. So, as you can probably see, all the trees and bushes here connect all the way through. I've got a slight bit of an island there. Don't really mind that one, but I can just sort of connect it a little bit here, maybe. Just a little smudge just there. Jelly mould on Dartmoor. And that was it. It's the only thing I ever found there. Okay, so down here I need something powerful now to lead you up. So the obvious thing usually is a path. So do I do a path? Why not? Let's have a path. There are actually some paths on Dartmoor, although a lot of them are very narrow tracks, more than a path. I wonder whether I should even bother. Let me think. Right, I'm going to lose these for now. And I'm going to build something up there. Now the reason I do this, when I do that, okay, because I see I have a light channel going across there, and if I put something in front of it, it adds dimension to the painting, because you know that whatever that is there continues there. It pushes this forward without doing much to it. It's just a dark blob, really. So let's just leave it as a blob. Let's try a path and see where it would go. So a bit of paper. Where would I want a path? I could probably, instead of it being across there, I could do it coming in that way. But then I could do it in both ways. I could do it, right, okay, so we've got this light bit. Let's continue the light down. So all I'm doing is taking paint away. Not obvious at the moment, just enough so that my eye starts to work on it. In other words, where does it go? Here's a hint. Okay, so if you do something like this, this is the state of mind that I'm in. I mean, as usual, highly disturbed, but it got a twist. I put the start of the path down, rather than committing myself to just a, path that goes off there. Let's make it interesting. So a line is always more interesting when it's got a bend in it. A bend or a bump always works. So let's take part of the path up there, and then it comes down that way. Okay, then step back, have a look at it, see what you think. Is it actually leading you into the picture? Yeah, it's starting to. Now, by having the path thick here implies that we are looking more onto the path, and that there must be a dip and a rise in the ground here because it becomes narrow. So it's exactly the same average thickness of that path. It's just that in some parts you're looking at it from that angle, and some you're looking at it from that angle. So it's like this. I hope that makes sense. And it's got a bend in it. You see, the bend can be really exaggerated. It won't necessarily end there. It'll get covered up by something in a minute, just to sort of tell the brain that the path does this, and then it comes back. That's what I'm after. So as it comes down here, the path could then get wider again because it's getting closer to us. So I'll just sort of wipe away paint there, all the way down, so that the path, in fact, I'm going to twist it around a bit more. So another piece of paper. Let's raise it up slightly. As usual, when I'm doing a Zoom class like this, what you're seeing on Zoom is not exactly what I'm seeing. You're seeing quite a grainy, mashed up version. Okay, let's play with a bit of sludgy colour. It's exactly basically it's the same colour all over. All that landscape is all made from the same colours. It looks like there's a lot in there, but there aren't. It's you know, the usual. On the glazing, I would probably add light green. I won't be doing that on this actual video. That'll be a separate video in the future. So this lump of trees here comes to an end there. Okay, let's give it an interesting end. Let's bring that little bit of landscape across there just a touch. That brings you into the, you know, scoops you around a bit more. This bit of path up here, we've got that tree there. Let's see. Yeah, okay, I don't want it too lined up, so we'll just put a bush there, which might turn into a tree later. It's just at the moment, it's just a blob tree, and we'll just cover the end of the path with that. So your brain puts the curl in the path for me. I don't have to paint it. Let's get a bit more colour on that. Slightly more opaque paint. I want that to be quite dark. Now I want it to be dark either to bring it closer to us or to make it less important. Does that make sense? In other words, I could put a whole load of dark vegetation down there, and that, funnily enough, will not only bring it forward, but it'll divert the eye away up to where the light is. So we could do that. Let's have just some shapes there at the moment. So that's just going to be some kind of something, you-know-whatery. There's my path coming down there. Let's put a slightly bigger tree just at the end of that. Okay, I've got to organise this a little bit here. I don't want it to look like a garden edge border type thing. I would like the wild as possible look. So the way the path comes down there, I want to assist the eye, your eye, into doing some work for me. So I've got that and I've got that. So I'm going to put another tree here because, again, you see, your mind's eye sees a path going around there. It will see it more in a minute, particularly when I darken, add a bit more darkness just down there. And at the moment it is just darkness. It's not intended to look like grass, but the brush will sort of assist me there. It'll put grass in your face whether you want it or not, basically. So we got that one there. Let's make that... Well, I was going to say, let's make the edge interesting, but I'll do that with paper in a moment. It'll be more interesting if I leave it for now. So we've got that. That looks good. We've got a sort of swirly thing over there. And then in a minute I'll get onto the really difficult bit, which is the sky. So this path comes down here. There's a bit of an edge there. Let's just have a little dark bit there, a few tufts. Now, tufts are different from islands. This is like, I'm trying to give the feeling that maybe this floods occasionally, and this is a little bit of scrubby grass that pokes up. I've actually got some nice rocks appearing there. You probably may not see it. It's a real close-up thing. You'll see it when I send you the picture. And for people watching on YouTube, what I mean by that is, this is a Zoom class, obviously, and I've got, I don't know, about 17 or 18 people watching. And at the end of the class, what I do is I photograph this, and then I send it to everyone so that you can actually see what it really looks like rather than the Zoom rendition, which is not brilliant. Okay, I think I've almost done it on the landscape for now. I came to the conclusion a few weeks ago, the reason I paint this sort of stuff, it's because that's where I want to be. You know, I've always liked the idea of living somewhere quite remote. And it is quite remote, actually, where I am. I don't have any close neighbours. Not at the moment, anyway. So it's nice and quiet. Okay, so that sort of gives you an idea of how to plan a landscape. So we're going to get onto the sky and do some fan brush work. Just another quick look before I get on the sky. Right, it's just last few touches. And that's all done with paper. Just a reminder, the paper thing is when you roll up paper, you have a smooth side. If you do that, that's the smooth side. The other side is all bumpy. And make it bumpier. Bumpify it as much as possible. Get as much texture on there as you can. And then turn something like that. So, yes, texture. All I want to do is make the edge of that tree. I can do it the same on other trees as well, but I'll just use this as an example. If I just pick up a bit of paint, okay, it'll start to do things to the paint, the blob that I've made, and I can use the bits of paint that are on that, and I can actually put a few of them around the edge, like so. Just don't overdo it. A couple of dabs, keep moving it so you don't get a sort of step and repeat pattern, just to sort of bushify it a bit. It just adds that little extra bit of realism. And I really like comments on my videos, and I know that some people have said, well, that's not really painting, you know, you're dabbing it. Not many people have said it, but actually it is painting because it's just an alternative brush, that's all. It picks up paint, it puts paint back. What do brushes do? They pick up paint and they put paint back. So you can use anything you like. So while I'm in that area, I'll just do a few dabs on here, just for the heck of it, just to sort of. But as I said, keep turning the paper so that nothing repeats. That's one touch on there. Over on the left here, I mean, that's okay as it is, I suppose. There's a bit of a straight line there, so I'm just going to break that. I don't like solid lines like that. It's just doesn't seem right. Anyway, so I've got that light channel behind it, so let's just block it in a couple of places. Doesn't have to be that obvious, just sort of mute it slightly and so one there. Just a little touch. Okay. Not too equidistant. And then using a piece of paper, just a few scrapes. You can drag the paper across it, see what that does. Just know when to stop. Don't know what those lines are, but they're in there. Let's just break them down a bit. The thing is, what do they look like? That's the question you need to ask yourself. Do they look like anything? And to a great extent, it doesn't really matter whether they look like anything at all, really. Let's add a lighter tree just in front of that lot. I think that'll do. I'll just do the one. Right, so up to the sky. Okay. So several things I'm going to do. I'm going to do a little bit of normal cloud, and then I'm going to add the fan brush type cloud later. Okay, a few fan brushes. And I'm not sure which one I'll use yet. Some are bristle and some are... actually, is that nylon? Let me just check this. I think it's nylon. Yeah. Some are bristle, the white ones, and the others are nylon. Extremely light and feathery. So we'll see what we get from those. But before I do that, I'm going to do some palette knife clouds. And I'll finish off with the fan brush. So this is just white, no oil added. And it's, you never know what you're going to get. But hopefully it'll be nice. So I think at the intermediate part of the sky, sort of along there, I'll work on this bit. The fan brush stuff will be like little fluffy bits that are flying off into the wild blue yonder. So let's have, as we've already got hardly any paint in that shape, it looks like I've painted a cloud there, but it's just less paint. So if I just push that in there, don't worry about what it looks like, just sort of push it around. And I don't know whether this is the stage where you start thinking cloud. So I always go on about, don't think tree, just paint shapes. Don't paint clouds, just paint shapes. But I don't know. I suppose there has to be a point where my brain says, right, okay, let's make a cloud. Now, you don't want an isolated cloud in the middle. I know it happens in nature, but it doesn't really look particularly good in paintings, unless you do something extra to it to, I don't know what the word, add in so much pizzazz, it becomes totally irresistible, but that's not what I'm after with this one. What I am doing, as I apply the paint, I've got the palette knife absolutely flat on the board. Okay, so it's not just the tip, it's absolutely flat like a trowel. And it's like plastering. I don't know whether you've ever done plastering. I have, but not with a palette knife. Hard work too. But yeah, don't be tempted to lift it off and scoop it. Well, it's up to you, but try doing what I'm doing before you do anything else, just to get you the feel of the thing. A lot of people are afraid of palette knives. They think that it's incredibly difficult. And as long as you think that, it will remain incredibly difficult. So get that out of your head, just sort of go for it. Let's do one of those repeats again. What was it I was going to repeat? Paint as if nobody's watching. So let's make some interesting shapes. Let's have a little bit there. This is not the fan brushy bit, obviously, because I'm not using a fan brush. This is just general cloud shapes. Okay, absolutely flat. Don't worry if you scrape in through the board. Obviously, if you're doing this on canvas, be careful, because you can actually go through the canvas with a palette knife. They're really sharp. And I have the scars to prove it. So that's that shape there. Let's have that. What would that logically do? It would probably do something like that. Vaguely. And an awful lot of clouds do have a flat bottom to them. So let's just have a little hint of that. Quick look in the camera. Okay, and now I wasn't going to do it. I was going to add a bit of a pink cloud. The thing is, do I do that now or do I do it at the glazing stage? I think I'll do it now. So, tiny bit of Japanese red. You don't need a lot of this. I mean, I've put a blob on the palette, which you'll probably see later if I remember to insert the palette. It's about the size of an acorn. And all I'm going to do is just mix it with a little touch of white. So, in other words, I'm making pink. Right, and it's a very, very white pink, if that makes sense. White pink. And I just want a little bit just there, which might give the feeling, if it's successful, that the sun is up the opposite side, shining down across it, and it's catching the light. One thing I did notice here where I live, if I go out my front door and turn right, I'm looking to the west, and quite often when the sun's setting, the sky looks better if I look north, because it's reflecting back on the clouds. So let's just have a little tiny bit more there. Just see how that holds up. I've got a bit of a line here, but I'll break that down in a moment. In fact, I'll do it now. I'm the biggest procrastinator on the planet, so let's just... Although I tend not to with paintings, funnily enough. Right, so there we are. That's all I'm probably going to do with the palette knife. There's not a great big build-up of paint there. I may do some lower ones in a minute, but the next thing I want to do is get this fan brush thing sorted out. So before I do that though, I've got my blurring brush. I'm just going to give it a wipe. Okay, and then just go for it, see what happens. And now, when you're doing this stage, what you're doing with this is not just a light touch, it is unbelievably light. Okay, I can't emphasize that enough. You are barely touching the board because you want to blur it, not move it. Okay, give it a wipe quite often. So I want to blur it, not move it, and there's quite a chunk of white there. So I'm going to build up to it. I'm going to do below first. Okay, just to soften that line. There may be some low lying over there, I'm not sure yet. Now, this is as I said, you've got to be a little bit careful here. Now, it may make lines, don't worry about that. They can look nice. And as soon as you've got what you want, back off. Just don't touch it. So that's that bit done. I might touch it again in a minute, but I'm going to go cautiously here. So the pink bit, let's just... If you do hit it too hard, which I just did, don't worry about it. You can always, backtrack. It's the good thing about this style of painting. There's always a way out, always a way back, just in case. Okay, I can see something I don't like straight away, and that's the top edge of that grey cloud there. It's too straight. I'll fix that in a moment. So back on the pink bit. So as you can see, the pink stuff, sorry, the pink bit is not spreading across the painting, same as the white bit isn't. It's just a blur. And if you think about it, when you go outside unless you go out specifically to study clouds, when you're outside and there are clouds in the landscape, obviously sometimes you don't get clouds, but think about it, analyse it right down. They are actually a blur. If you're not looking for clouds, they're just there. They're just a blur. So perhaps try and reproduce that. Quite like that effect, actually. I might leave that pink bit isolated. And I'm just going to fix that here. And then we're on to, dare I say it yet again, the fan brush. And you'll be surprised at what I'm going to do, probably. It's dead simple. It's just a... well, you'll see. If you're still here. Not everybody's here. Okay, so I'm going to lose that sort of slightly hard line by just bringing down a few bits of cloud along there. Okay. But notice how I'm fragmenting it. I'm not making it obvious. I hope I'm not, anyway. Just sort of a few up and downy things like that. That's all it takes. I suppose one of the main things is to have the confidence to know that when to stop. You know, I know because I do it so often now that if I do that, and it may look a bit of a mess, it actually doesn't look too bad, funnily enough. It's nicely broken up. But if I just hit it with this a few times, it'll look even better. Now, I always say take the clouds off the edges. That doesn't mean say every single cloud. That cloud may just happen to sort of fizzle out just about there. There we go. So the lower stuff, though, I'm not sure what to do with that yet. So let's fan brush. Should be a fanfare for the fan brush. And which one I'm going to use the soft one, and quite a small brush. And all it is of course, every hair in the brush is now coming out now it's touched paint. Not that I think, oh no, they're not, they're still attached. The thing with a fan brush is when you clean them, be really careful, because once the edge bristles come out, the others fall out like a deck of cards. So, but I have noticed with this one, of course, never used it before, I've noticed that now I've put paint on it, there are 4 bristles that aren't actually coming out. They're just much longer than the others. So I might actually snip them, if I can find a snipper. Got one. Always have a snipper within reach. It's actually just a blade from a craft knife. So that's that done, and that's that. Now we have a perfect fan brush. Good. All it is this. Now, this is things you can do with a fan brush. You can do very simple trees in the distance that look as though they've lost their leaves, which just touching it on like so. We're not into that today. So if I want to do some interesting clouds, all I'm doing is painting and twiddling. It's just a twiddle. So if I go up there like that and just do this, you will get more random cloud shapes. It's very faint at the moment. I might just strengthen that up a bit just to make it come out on the video. Just a bit more paint. No oil, don't add oil. Okay, so let's have another. So this cloud here is breaking up at the top. Now I could do this with a medium-sized, decorating brush, but this is like, it's just more random, and in a minute I'll be blurring that as well. And then occasionally add a bit of pressure to it. Just sort of scumble away, and then, is that the right brush? Yeah. And then blur that. Okay, that's good. So I'm going to do that a lot now, and then go back to blurring it again in a few seconds. Now the thing about a nylon brush, particularly when it's a very fine nylon brush, it'll pick up a lot of paint and you'll get that effect. Which means, let me just do this. that effect. So you want to avoid that. Okay, so the best thing to do when that happens is just don't dip it in turpentine and wipe it. You don't need to. Just give it a wipe with a piece of paper. Don't be brutal with these though. They can't take it. So I've ended up with a trident shape now, but that's okay. All I want to do is just sort of break up the lumps, the tufts of bristle, or whatever it is, not bristle. So, but you don't have to pay too much attention to it, and the reason being is because I'm going to be twiddling, so it's going to be sort of flying around all over the place here. So let's have another bunch of twiddly clouds up there. That's all it is. There is no mystery to this, or if there was, there isn't now. Just be as unpredictable as possible. The more unpredictable the cloud, the more real it will look. What should we do over the other side? Let's have a few going off that way up there. It's going to be like, you know, I'm sure you've all seen what I call, I don't know, maybe that is the name, a herringbone type sky. It's usually very high altitude. I'm sure someone will Google this while I'm talking. But it looks almost like a complete repeat. It's like herringbone effect. You can do that with these brushes. I'm not going to do it, but because I like the fragmentation type thing. It tends to suggest that you actually have wind in the painting. So again, don't think about where you're putting them. But you may want to say, well, okay, there's going to be this like flow coming out from that point. But don't make that too obvious either. Try to keep it, well, you've got to keep it real. Let's just add a bit more intensity just here, and then throw something in over there. Probably something up here. Okay, let's have a little bit of fluffy pink. Okay, well, so the light's definitely coming across, hitting the left side of the cloud. So we just put some lumps there. Let's have a little bit on there, but don't dig it in. You know, let it sit, and it will stay clean. A few tiny little hints around here, maybe a little bit there. That's all it is. It's just that. Okay, it's a randomizer, and you can't beat a bit of random. Right, a bit more paper. So that what looks like clumsy blobs at the moment, hopefully will come together. I could exaggerate. Do you know, I'm seriously considering exaggerating the pink just a bit more. And I wouldn't do this for anyone, but as you're here, let's do it. Let's just get a bit more white and a bit more Japanese red. You don't have to, I have to say this because I get flooded with people saying they can't get Japanese red. Okay, don't worry about it. Use vermilion, or use cadmium red if you want. But vermilion is the best substitute for Japanese red. Okay, so there's just a lump of pink on that. Where should we put it? Let's think, where would it be? I think that needs to be slightly more, and just a few lumps up there. Okay, right. Won't go too far. And let's do a bit of blurring. So, again, because I've put that colour on quite thickly, barely touch it. Got some spots there, so you can demolish the spots if they look too spotty. Just use the corner of the brush just to dissipate them slightly. But this is the point now where you've got to stay slightly in control of everything. Okay, let's just soften this lot here. Maybe next time I'll show you how to do the fan brush tree. That's really good. It's not so good for the trees in the foreground, but it's good for distant trees. Okay, so that I think needs to just calm down slightly. So again, barely touching it. Just as soon as the brush seems to do what I want it to do, then I back off. Now, if I was going to do a second session on this, which I may do, it would be a slightly pinky glaze. In other words, I'd leave those as they are, but I'd put a general pinkness to the sky. The reason I'm doing that is I'm flicking off bristles. Seem to have got a bad batch of cheap brushes, if there could be such a thing. I suppose there could. A good batch of good brushes and a bad batch of bad brushes. They're generally good. I'm just slightly tempted to put a few more clouds closer to the horizon. Do I need to? Yeah, why not? Then that'll be it. So, biggish palette knife. You could use a small palette knife because the clouds are distant and probably smaller. Obviously, clouds close to the horizon are further away, so it's up to you. But you can use a big palette knife and make them look small. But I quite like the idea of. See, I've got that. Maybe I want to bring something from there, something here that leads you up to there. So I think we'll just do a few of these. So the thing, if you're following along and you're trying this out, the thing that you've got to get your mind into now is ignore the rest of the painting. I'm just making shapes and getting bristles off. It's my hobby at the moment. Painting pictures is sort of like a hobby. Well, actually, it's my main function, but. Getting bristles off a painting is definitely, I suppose it's almost as bad as train spotting. I don't know whether any of that made sense, I may have to mute it. Okay. I think that might almost work. So we're seconds away from finishing this, because I think I want to just sort of have a few more just there. Again, see, they're just shapes. Not a lot about that that's particularly cloud shaped. Right, one last blur and we're done. Now, while I'm blurring, I've got this sort of blue hill in the background, blue bit of landscape, which I have seen. I mean, you do get that. Obviously, in a painting, you exaggerate it a tad, but I can leave parts of the cloud line quite hard and soft in others. I'm not sure what I want yet. It depends what looks good when I do this. Oh, I think I quite like it like that. In fact, I'm going to just do a few of these as well. Let's have a few of them. I don't want to destroy some of the marks that I made over there, so I think it's probably going to work. why not? Do I need more marks in the blue? Yeah, I think I do. I've swiped a few of them away, so I'll just shove a few back. So let's have so one or two there, just literally just lines, that's all they are. And I don't know, I suppose they sort of hint at fields, I suppose. I guess they must do, really. Break them down a bit as they get closer to the clouds. And I think that might be it for the day. Okay, I can see a lot of bristles on the painting that I'll get them off later, I think. You can't see them, but I can. There's one there, in fact. That's got to go. It is actually, before painting dries, always get the bristles off. Even if you've got expensive brushes, you may get bristles that have become detached. And trust me, it's easier to get them while the painting is wet, because when you varnish it, you don't want to seal the bristle underneath the varnish. And I think that may be it. So there we are. So if you want to come to Zoom classes in the future, there'll be a link below. If you go to my website, I'm not sure, I think you can. You can go to my website and you can sign up for my newsletter, which basically just tells you when the classes are coming up. What else? If you want to be a patron, there'll be a link to my Patreon page. If you pay the equivalent of €30 a month, you get 2 classes. A class normally costs €30. So if you're a patron, you get 2 classes. What else? I think that's it. Almost. Well, I was going to go, but I just had a conversation with my group, and I think, and the spokesperson thinks that this might be too pink. So I'll just show you how to fix that. All I'm going to do is just sort of this, just to prove that nothing is lost. That's just sort of, I think maybe spreading it a bit is going to help. So I'm just going to do that. Okay, and then I'm going to blur it again. And I think that might help. It was just too pinpointed. So if I just stretch it a bit, and it has muted it slightly, I think I might go with that. Why not? And I'm going to, in fact, lift a little bit of paint from there and just connect them through the middle. There we are, just a touch. Very subtle. Okay, I think I might get away with that. So as I was winding up, I did say a few things. Yeah, Patreon, Zoom classes. You can follow me on Facebook if you want. If you do like this video, please subscribe and hit the thumbs up button and the little bell icon. If you hit the bell icon, you'll know when I put another video up. Hopefully I might meet you in the future in a class. And the very last thing, I had a little town over there a while ago, I lost it. Just going to put a few marks that look like a building. Or 2. Don't know whether it will. Just something in the murky blue. Maybe it'll look all right. A few more stripes. So one that comes along there. Oh yeah, that's nice. That gives it a real good feeling of depth there. And let's have another one like that at that angle, and then a few connectors across. Give us a sort of patchwork look. And then I'm stopping. So that's it. Thanks very much, and see you next time. Bye for now.